Today we're reading references, and as Bill sees it, towards tolerance toward opinions on religion. Page 34, not allied with any sect. While AA has restored thousands of poor Christians to their churches and has made believers out of atheists and agnostics, it has also made good AAs out of those belonging to the Buddhist, Islamic, and Jewish faiths. For example, we question very much whether our Buddhist members in Japan would ever have joined the society had AA officially stamped itself strictly a Christian movement. You can easily convince yourself of this by imagining that AA started among the Buddhists and that they told you couldn't join them unless you became a Buddhist too. If you were a Christian alcoholic under these circumstances, you might well turn your face to the wall and die. 73. Two-way tolerance. Your point of view was once mine. Fortunately, AA is constructed so that we need not debate the existence of God, but for best results, most of us must depend upon a higher power. You say the group is your higher power, and no right-minded AA would challenge your privilege to believe precisely that way. We should all be glad that good recoveries can be made even on this limited basis. But turnabout is fair play. If you would expect tolerance for your point of view, I am sure you would be willing to reciprocate. I try to remember that down through the centuries, lots of brighter people than I have been found on both sides of this debate about belief. For myself, of late years, I am finding it much easier to believe that God made man than that man made God. 95. Spiritual kindergarten. We are only operating a spiritual kindergarten in which people are enabled to get over drinking and find the grace to go on living to better effect. Each man's theology has to be his own quest, his own affair. When the big book was being planned, some members thought it ought to be Christian in the doctrinal sense. Others had no objection to the use of the word God, but wanted to avoid doctrinal issues. Spirituality, yes. Religion, no. Still others wanted a psychological book to lure the alcoholic in. Once in, he could take God or leave him alone as he wished. To the rest of us, this was shocking, but happily we listened. Our group conscience was at work to construct the most acceptable and effective book possible. Every voice was playing its appointed part. Our atheists and agnostics widened our gateway so that all who suffer might pass through, regardless of their belief or lack of belief. 116. Each man's vision. Beyond a higher power, each of us may vision him. Excuse me, I read that wrong. Beyond a higher power, as each of us may vision him, AA must never, as a society, enter the field of dogma or theology. We can never become a religion in that sense, lest we kill our usefulness by getting bogged down in theological contention. The really amazing fact about AA is that all religions see in our program a resemblance of themselves. For example, Catholic theologians declare our 12 steps to be in exact accord with their Ignatian exercises for retreat, and though our book reeks of sin, sickness, and death, the Christian Science Monitor has often praised it editorially. Now, looking through Quaker eyes, you too see us favorably. What happy circumstances these. 158. Tolerance in practice. We found that the principles of tolerance and love had to be emphasized in actual practice. We can never say or insinuate to anyone that he must agree to our formula or be excommunicated. The atheist may stand up in an AA meeting, still denying the deity, yet reporting how vastly he has changed in attitude and outlook. Much experience tells us that he will presently change his mind about God, but nobody tells him he must do so. In order to carry the principle of inclusiveness and tolerance still further, we make no religious requirement of anyone. All people having had an alcoholic problem who wish to get rid of it and so make a happy adjustment with the circumstances of their lives become AA members by simply associating with us. Nothing but sincerity is needed. We do not demand even this. In such an atmosphere, the orthodox, the unorthodox, the unbeliever, and the unbeliever mix happily and usefully together. An opportunity for spiritual growth is open to all. 175. Aspects of tolerance. All kinds of people have found their way into AA. Not too long ago, I sat talking in my office with a member who bears the title of Countess. That same night, I went to an AA meeting. It was winter, and there was a mild-looking little gent taking the coats. I said, "Who's that?" And somebody answered, "Oh, he's been around for a long time. Everybody likes him. He used to be one of Al Capone's mob." That's how universal AA is today. We have no desire to convince anyone that there is only one way by which faith can be acquired. All of us, whatever our race, creed, or color, are the children of a living Creator, with whom we may form a relationship upon simple and understandable terms as soon as we are willing and honest enough to try. 201. Unlimited choice. Any number of alcoholics are bedeviled by the dire conviction that if ever they go near AA, they will be pressured to conform to some particular brand of faith or theology. They just don't realize that faith is never an imperative for AA membership, that sobriety can be achieved with an easily acceptable minimum of it, and that our concepts of a higher power and God, as we understand Him, afford everyone a nearly unlimited choice of spiritual belief and action. In talking to a prospect, stress the spiritual feature freely. If a man be agnostic or atheist, make it emphatic that he does not have to agree with your conception of God. He can choose any conception he likes, provided it makes sense to him. The main thing is that he be willing to believe in a power greater than himself, and that he live by spiritual principles. 223. One fellowship, many faiths. As a society, we must never become so vain as to suppose that we are authors and inventors of a new religion. We will humbly reflect that every one of AA's principles has been borrowed from ancient sources. A minister in Thailand wrote, "We took AA's 12 steps to the largest Buddhist monastery in this province, and the head priest said, 'Why, these steps are fine. For us as Buddhists, it might be slightly more acceptable if you had inserted the word good in your steps instead of God. Nevertheless, you say that it is God as you understand him, and that must certainly include the good. Yes, AA's 12 steps will surely be accepted by the Buddhists around here." A St. Louis old-timer recalled how Father Edward Dowling helped start their group. It turned out to be largely Protestant, but this fazed him not a bit. And our final reading today, 276, A Higher Power for Atheists. I have many experiences with atheists, mostly good. Everybody in AA has the right to his own opinion. It is much better to maintain an open and a tolerant society than it is to stress any small disturbances their opinions might occasion. Actually, I don't know of anybody who went off and died of alcoholism because of some atheist opinion on the cosmos. But I do always entreat these folks to look to a higher power, namely their own group. When they come in, most of their AA group is sober and they are drunk. Therefore, the group is a higher power. That's a good enough start, and most of them do progress from there. I know how they feel because I once was that way myself.